Welcome to the Savant ADC video training series. My name is Jim, and in this training session we will be doing part 3 of the system setup and configuration. So let's kick it. To keep our videos consistent throughout this training series, we have created a demo company called Radical Rakes. Radical Rakes is a manufacturer of robotic lawn maintenance products. They distribute their products through a multi-channel that includes retailers and the Radical Rakes online store, which sells direct to end customers. Radical Rakes distributes their products through a single warehouse facility. In this training session, we will be setting up the rest of the ADC modules. The inventory module setup will include inventory options, inventory levels, and hold and adjustment codes. The receiving module setup will focus on the receiving options and its workflow. And finally, with the order fulfillment module, we will also configure this module's workflow. We launch the inventory setup screen by clicking on the Inventory Module tab and then clicking on the inventory icon in the setup group. Savant ADC gives you the option to add new products using the product information screen. However, if your products are entered into an ERP system with an automatic interface into the Savant ADC product, then you will want this box to be unchecked. The reason is that with an ERP integration, there will only be one point of data entry, and the ERP and ADC applications will always be in sync. Allowing new products to be entered opens up the opportunity for discrepancies between the two systems to occur. If there isn't an interface into an ERP, then this box should be checked. You have the ability to define default units for dimension and weight using either standard US or metric system measures. You can also set the quantity limit on the number of units entered for an adjustment. As an example, if you were making an inventory adjustment on a product and there was only ever a maximum of 75 of any product in the warehouse at any given time, then you wouldn't want the operator to accidentally enter an adjustment for 10,000 units. In this text box, you can limit the number of quantities that an operator can enter during an inventory adjustment. Now we're going to keep the defaults for the inventory options. Savant ADC supports 2 inventory levels. Level 0 is typically products, and Level 1 is typically a box or pallet or storage grouping for a product. The length of ID, last sequence used, and max sequence allowed fields only apply to Level 1, so just accept the defaults for Level 0. The length of ID for a Level 1 is the maximum ID length for the product storage identified. Using our pallet example, we might use a pallet numbering sequence of 5 numeric characters, like 10001, so our length of ID would be 5. The last sequence used will be the last number for an existing storage unit. This tells the Savant ADC system where to begin when auto-creating new IDs. Using our pallet example, if I entered the last number of 10001, then the system will begin generating new pallet IDs at 10002. For our last sequence, we will enter a 1, so that the first pallet generated by the system is 00002. The max sequence allowed prompt tells the system when to begin reusing storage IDs. If we enter 99999, then when the system generates pallet ID 99999, the next pallet ID will begin at 0000. We will keep this at the 5 nines. The default label format is the name of the default label format that will be generated by the system for that level and/or product. You can use the default labels provided in the system or create custom ones. The only rule is that the labels must be saved in the labels directory. Click Update to save your changes. Hold reason codes are codes that are assigned to inventory transactions where inventory is placed on hold. You can create any hold codes you want. The user-defined fields are optional and can be used in reports. For training, I will set up the 3 hold codes that we see most often. First one is going to be QA, quality. Second one is going to be CUST for a customer hold. And the final one is going to be RTV, which is return to vendor. In using the ADC system, you will need to make adjustments to your inventory. Adjustment reason codes are assigned to these transactions. Again, the user-defined fields are optional and can be used in reports. We will enter the 3 common adjustment codes. INV for inventory adjustment, scrap for inventory scrap, and sample for salesperson samples. And this concludes setting up our inventory module. The next module that we are going to set up is receiving. The receiving setup options screen helps us define the unique variables of the receiving process. As inventory is received in the warehouse, it is first stored in a receiving location. Unless otherwise specified, all receipts will be placed in the default receiving location. When we set up our locations in the previous training video, we created a default receiving location called MREC01. When the purchase order's required box is checked, the operator will only be able to receive products against a valid purchase order. We will keep this box checked. Savant ADC has a screen for entering manual purchase orders. If the auto-generate PO number box is checked, the system will automatically generate the PO number sequentially. If the box is unchecked, then the operator will need to create their own PO numbers manually. We will keep this box unchecked. Remember, in the inventory setup, there were 2 inventory levels, a level 0 and level 1. During receiving, you have the option to print level 1 and level 0 labels. The print palette and product labels prompts allow you to determine if you will always print labels for the level, if you will never print labels, or if the system will prompt the operator to print labels. We will always print palette or level 1 labels, and we will change the print product or level 0 labels to prompt the user. If your product is using alternative units of measure, then you can also determine if those labels will print during receiving. Let's change this to prompt user. Click on the Save button to save your changes. The Savant ADC system allows the warehouse to define unique workflows for the receiving processes. To create a receiving workflow definition, click on the Receiving Workflow icon. Notice that the screen has some similarities with the Receiving Setup options screen. The options on the previous screen will be used if the PO is not assigned a PO type. If a PO type is assigned to the PO, the ADC system will process the receiving according to the rules of that PO type workflow. We have predefined a PO type called, well, PO. Remember, without a PO type, the system will use the defaults we set up in the Receiving Setup options screen. The first step is to enter a unique PO type and description. If the Allow Multiple Receiving Locations box is checked, the operator can receive product into more than one location. If unchecked, then the default receiving location below is the only location allowed. We're going to allow multiple receiving locations. As with the other screen, we can assign a default receiving location for this PO type. Again, we are going to use our MREC01 location. It is possible that the operator might key in a significantly wrong number or accidentally scan a UPC code. The max receipt quantity provides a safeguard against these accidents. Enter a number that is realistically the highest quantity allowed to be received for this PO type. I'm going to change this to 500,000. The system provides an option to keep the user from receiving more product that is on the PO, or to allow the user to receive more product than is on the PO. We don't want to receive over shipments, so we will select the Do Not Allow option. When the Allow Entry of Alternate Unit of Measures checkbox is checked, then the receiving screen will allow the user to enter quantities and other units of measure besides the base unit of measure. We're going to leave this box unchecked. The Receiving Prompt and Workflow tab is used to define the verbiage for the PO types and indicate which labels are to be printed. Savant ADC supports only one PO prompt type called Purchase Order. Other PO prompt types, like Container, Warehouse Transfer, and Returns, are added to the selection when ancillary modules are activated. When the Prompt for Invoice Packing Slip box is checked, the operator will be prompted to enter the packing slip number. We will not check this box. You have the ability at the PO type level to determine which level labels are printed. We will always print pallet or level 1 labels. The product labels have two additional options that tie to a prompt on the product information screen. The print barcode at receiving is that prompt. If the box is checked on this screen, then labels can be generated for specific products on a PO either automatically or at the user's discretion when prompted. For training, we will never print product labels. The PO prompt text is the text that will display on the scanner when asking for the document ID. We'll keep the PO text. The invoice packing slip prompt text is the text that will display on the scanner when the invoice or packing slip is prompted for entry. This only applies if the prompt for invoice packing slip checkbox is checked. We also have the ability to specify the number of level labels that we want to print if we are printing labels. We will print only one pallet label and keep 0 for the product labels since we never print those labels. Let's click on Update to save our changes. The next module is Order Fulfillment. The Order Fulfillment Workflow Setup screen is used for setting up order type codes and workflow options. In the Savant ADC application, there is limited workflow options compared to our WMS product. If you were to upgrade from ADC to the WMS, then both tabs would have considerably more workflow options. Savant ADC has a predefined order type code called SO. If you are creating a new order type, enter the unique code and description. The pick staging location is the default location where products are moved after picking. Remember from our previous training video that we assigned Dock to be our pick staging location. Savant ADC does not support an allocation behavior, so the only option is None. The initial order status is the status to assign an order when it initially comes down over to Savant from the ERP system, or when a new sales order is entered into the system. The most commonly used statuses for this text box is New, though some warehouses might use Open or Hold as the initial order status. We will set the status to Open. Clicking on the Workflow Options tab gives us one more option to deal with. When the Allow User to Switch Unit of Measure and Picking box is checked, the user will be allowed to change the unit of measure for a product during the picking process. We will leave this box unchecked. Don't forget to click on the Update button to save your changes. There is one final setup step. Remember when we set up our main site, there were two prompts for entering default sales order and purchase order type codes. We needed to wait to enter these codes until after the receiving and order fulfillment setup was complete. Let's now add our codes. Click Update to save the site changes. Our Savant ADC system is now set up and ready to use. Let's take a moment and review all of our setup and configuration efforts. In the first video, we set up our company and main site information. We then set up our operators and security options. We created roles to define which group of operators would have access to various system functions, and then we assigned our operators to those roles. In the second video, we configured our warehouse location structure and then created our locations using the bin location screen and the Generate Mass Locations tool. We then configured a picking zone to efficiently move pickers from location to location during the picking process. Finally, we configured our printers, which concluded the setup of the System Administration module. We configured our inventory module, including setting inventory options, updating our default inventory levels, and creating both hold and adjustment codes. We then set up the receiving options and also enhanced the receiving workflow by redefining the default PO type code. We did the same thing in the order fulfillment workflow by setting up the sales order workflow. And our final step was to go back to the main site setup screen and add those default order and purchase order type codes to the system. All right, now go forth and conquer your warehouse operations. This concludes the Savant ADC Setup and Configuration video training series. Our next video training series will teach you how to use the ADC system and perform the various warehouse functions. We will receive product into the warehouse. We will then manage that inventory while it is in the warehouse. And as customer orders come in, we will pick orders and move inventory out of the warehouse. Finally, we will review the tools within the ADC system to help you manage your ongoing warehouse operations. Thank you for viewing the Savant ADC video training series. For more information, contact Savant Software at 855-236-9083. You can email us at support@savantwms.com or visit our website at www.savantwms.com.